Hello, everybody. Welcome to Character Study, a Survivor podcast. My name's Tristan Fluhr. That's Tyler Klimes. We're talking about the hot Grim Reaper herself today, Miss Savannah Louie. Tyler, what's up, buddy? How are you?
The warrior princess, the hot Grim Reaper. She's got nicknames for herself in all
Out the
capacities.
wazoo. Out the
Out the
wazoo.
wazoo. Yeah, that's correct. I'm excited to get into talking about Savannah today. She's a fun character, one we got to see on back-to-back seasons, so it's a good time to talk about it.
Yeah, Savannah is one of my personal favorite New Era characters. I think there's a lot to dive into about her, and because we saw her in rapid succession, I don't really think we've had time to really break down her game because she went from 49 right to 50. That's what we're going to do today. Now, if you're new to the podcast, this is our third episode. Who are we? We're producers and people who are in the media industry, both in the sports realm, but we are passionate about Survivor. Tyler, I think what we both think makes Survivor great is characters, and we're trying to answer the question of what makes great characters by examining each and every castaway that plays Survivor.
And each and every castaway is so different, which is what makes characters so great is you have so many different aspects. It's like snowflakes falling from the sky. Each one's different in their own ways, even though they may look the same on the outside. Look a little bit closer, and there's some differences there.
Now, we're not pretending to be experts in this, right? We're not going to psychoanalyze these people and completely say, oh, they're this way because of that's how they were raised. That's not our job here. But we're taking what we know from the edited show, taking a few maybe details from preseason press, exit press, those kind of things, and really diving into what makes these characters great and how their decisions on the island then reflects their overall character and their overall story over their allotment of seasons. But we're going to talk about Savannah Louie today, who is 31 years old, from Atlanta, Georgia, former news reporter, was in marketing when she played Survivor, now back in news. So congrats, Savannah, for that. And we're going to talk about somebody who was the winner of season 49 and really one of the more dominant winners in the new era, I would say.
This is such an interesting discussion because there's so much that went on behind the scenes of 49 and 50 that really influenced our perspective looking at Savannah. The whole season, really in 49 and her short time on 50 as well. So it's going to be fun to, now that we've seen it all, now that that's all in the past, reflect on it and see what were the true thoughts on Savannah, and not just the thoughts that we had based on preconceived notions that she would be on 50 and would be a big character on 49.
Yeah, I really, I mean, we'll get into this later, but I really think she was done a disservice by the spoilers coming out that she was going to be on 50 and the fact that we knew the 50 cast list before 49 even came out. I think a huge disservice was done to Savannah with that. Um, just because she wasn't really able to have her own moment in the sun. We all kind of knew it was coming, at least if you're plugged into the Survivor community. Uh, Even people who didn't want to know the spoilers probably knew that she was going to be on 50 at some point. And that really, I think, kind of tarnished her moment of people really recognizing this great character. So, Savannah, we're here to give you your flowers today. We're here to dive into what makes you, I think, maybe a hot take, the best villain of the new era. Just gonna put that out there, but we'll get into it a little bit later. Let's start with season 49 in a review of Savannah's game. Trace Lechi's alliance with Sophie Bellardi and Rizzo. I also think this is maybe the first alliance ever that has been named almost after the alliance has dissolved. I mean,
Yeah.
this is at like the tail end of this alliance that they name it, which is really funny because usually, alliances are named in the first 5 minutes, but this one was kind of the opposite.
The season's practically over when we finally get the name, but there's another alliance early on that Uli tribe that Savannah is a part of as well. Kind of just to start from the top. It's her and Rizzo, which are both in the Chase alliance. And you have Nate and Shannon was the early alliance there. So you kind of see how things kind of change throughout the game, looking at those two different perspectives. Some players stay the same in their alliance because they were in the game, didn't really want to work with Shannon as they kind of separated tribes, and then Nate ends up getting blindsided, and that all happens. But she's adaptable, so let's start from the top. Tristan, I kind of want to just throw it at you here. I know again, we kind of thought she was going to go far because of the 50 of it all. We didn't know if she was going to win, but she comes out early with a winner's quote about as winner quote as you could be. It's right behind me, part of the quote at least. She said, "This is going to be the easiest million I will ever make." Thoughts on that?
So I'm gonna be completely honest. She was my winner pick before I even knew she was gonna be on season 50. I felt pretty good about my prediction in that moment. And the reason I chose her is because she just has this aura around her. Like she's one of those people that you're like, she is a winner just in life. Like she has that energy, she has that charisma, she has that confidence that I think you need at a certain level. I mean, there are always going to be the underdog people, right? That you're going to get in every level of Survivor in life, in sports and competition. But something about Savannah that makes her so unique is a true confidence in her own abilities and what she is able to do and the way she's able to describe it. And you and I both work in the media industry. We both have people in our lives that work in news, and we both know what it's like to work in news from an outsider's perspective. I mean, a lot of those news reporters are hound dogs. I mean, they'll go out there and they'll go find the story. They'll go investigate, try to figure out what's at the bottom of whatever it is. Leads are huge, fostering those relationships. And I think that's what you see in Savannah's game. If you didn't know she was a newscaster, I think you'd be able to guess based on her performance in season 49.
And something important in the news industry, and really every industry, is connections. And Savannah takes time to point out that she has built connections. And yes, she does have to dig for those stories, but you have to build personal connections with real people in order to get real stories out of them. That's something she knew she could use to her advantage coming into the game, and she definitely does.
Which is ironic because I'd almost argue that her social game was probably the weakest part of her game.
Hmm.
In season 49, you know, you look at her strategic game, which is great. You look at her physical game, which is obviously really awesome with 4 immunity wins. But you also look at her social game and with the people that she's with, it's great, right? Sophie and Rizzo are with her to the end. Nate would be with her to the end. Shannon would have been with her to the end. But then you look at some of the people, mainly Christina, it's not there. I mean, with a different jury, that last question that Christina asks at Final Tribal could cost Savannah the game, depending on like what Kyle Frazier would have said, what jurors would have had for lunch that day. You know,
Yeah.
if the Ponderosa food's bad, Savannah might not be on season 50.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I really like what you said. Savannah locks in relationships and builds trust with those she knows that she is close to, at least on 49. And she seemed to realize this in between her exit press of 49 and going on to 50, is that she needed to build those relationships and trust with everyone, learn names of family members. We'll dive into all that with Christina later. But yeah, she does a great job of building those connections with the people that she feels she needs to. But in 49, a flaw in her game is there's people on the outside that she doesn't build connections with because she doesn't need to, get their stories in order to benefit her game like you would in a news career itself to get stories to benefit a career. And that part kind of goes out the window until she realizes too late, ooh, this is something I really could have needed.
Yeah, I also think it's really interesting when you take into what Savannah has done and what she's built, you know, she kind of takes on this almost Boston Rob Redemption Island style of us versus them. And I think that when you can do that as a Survivor player, you know, Christian Hubecki talked about this in season 50, narrative warfare. That's something you and I are very familiar with our jobs, right, as producers. And I think so much of what power players do in Survivor is crafting narratives. And I think that's something that Savannah did super well. Now, her abrasive personality is something that's going to turn certain people off, right? Personally, it's what endears me to her. I'm like, that's somebody who's going to go out there and get what they want, and I really enjoy it. But to other people, that might not be exactly what they're looking for. But what Savannah's able to do with that is not even take that as a disadvantage, but it locks the people that she's close with even tighter to her by creating this herd mentality, us versus them style. And I really think that's what kind of propels her through the rest of the game, where even though she's a target, and even though she has to have these clutch immunity wins to stay in the game, she has enough people that's willing to go to bat for her that she feels some level of safety, even if she doesn't win that immunity, mainly the Jawan boot.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Juwan in a second. I have some questions for you about him, but just to hit on that point, because I think that's a really good thing to bring up. There's so many different ways to win Survivor, obviously. There's the way where you can win over every single jury member subtly. I mean, there's so many more than this, but like there's a way you can do it that way, which a lot of people would say, oh, I'd want to get as many jury votes as possible. There's also a strategy you could take to it and say, I just need to lock in these six people on the jury. If I can do that, it doesn't matter what the rest of these people think about me. And I think that's an interesting strategy that she kind of plays by throughout the game. So I'm glad you brought that up. But I want to get into Joanna, if that's all right with you.
Let's go
Um,
for it.
let's dive into it
What
because
a
there's a
complicated
lot here.
relationship.
Yes. Yeah, let's start off with everything that happens with Jawan and Savannah's bag. So just to refresh those that haven't seen 49 in a bit since it aired, Javon essentially is grabbing some sticks. He's going around putting them in his bag just to bring it back to camp, thinking it's smart.
Or look for an idol.
Yeah, Savannah thinks he's looking for an idol. He can stuff that thing right into the bag with those sticks. Great observation by Savannah. Then it gets even worse. It's not Jawan's bag, it's Savannah's
Nope.
bag the whole
Big time.
time. Savannah thinks Jawan is already playing a smart game by trying to hide an idol in a bag, let alone it's her bag, and she has to stay quiet. This is an important social aspect of her game, and I know we said that's one of the weaker aspects, but she stays quiet here, also talking in confessional about how mad and irritated she is. What does that say to you about Savannah and her adaptability?
Well, I think that Savannah's really good at being somebody who is when Savannah gets upset with you, she's gonna be really nice to your face, and then she's gonna rip you into confessional. And I think that's something that there's a certain level of self-control that players have to have. And the players that you see, that separates you from being a Tyson, right? Who's gonna say it in the confessional, or a Philip Shepard, who's just gonna say it as is in the moment, right? And say even more absurd things in the confessional. There are two different ways, and I think the self-control line is a huge level of that. And I think Savannah has that. I mean, she obviously has moments where she does things that are maybe over the line, like jumping and grabbing the keys from MC, or doing some of those other things. You know, if you're talking to Sage, then it's calling the chickens General So's and all those other things, right? But I think that there's a big difference between somebody who's going to tell you to your face that they don't like you, or somebody who's going to have the self-control to say, hey, I can still work with this person. I'm still going to keep up the impression they like me. And then in the confessional, you're going to rip them.
That's what makes the best characters, and a lot of the times the best players too, because you need to have a lot of people will describe their confessionals or times where they're sitting in front of the camera when you see them on camera doing their interviews. That's their like therapy session. That's their
Hmm.
time to get out their thoughts, say what they've been thinking that they can't say at camp. You need to save it for that time. And I think Savannah might be on record saying that she kind of thought the same way, that she's been on the other side of interviews so much that she knows what it's like to build connections with those that she's interviewing. And being on the other side, she knows how therapeutic it can be. So that is another way that's really beneficial to her. And then just while we're talking about Jawan too, there's another instance later in the game where Jawan takes her water bottle and she has to do the same thing. So this is not just a one-time thing. She's able to navigate through this the entirety of the game until eventually she comes after Jawan.
So then I do have a question, right? Because she
Yeah.
gets labeled as this mean girl, right, throughout the game. And a lot of it stems from this chicken incident with Sage, and really just about her vibe and the way Sage reads that. And Savannah argues back with the, hey, the person who you can't play the victim card if you're holding the knife, which is fair, right? How does she get labeled as this mean girl? Is this undeserved? Because I think a lot of people still think that way about Savannah, that she's this kind of abrasive person, but I don't know how accurate that actually is.
No, I think Savannah is someone who realizes what it takes to win Survivor. Clearly, she wins the season, but like even if she doesn't, she knows that she has to make moves and is going to get caught in some awkward situations because she needs to be herself. I don't think she's an evil person, but that doesn't mean she can't be labeled as a villain on Survivor. She came into the season saying in her press that she knows that she's going to have to do some villainous things. We'll run through some scenarios. You talked about the general sewing the chickens thing with Sage. There's a couple other moments where even if it's
MC's
not,
keys,
yeah, MC and the keys
which
were,
was wild, by the way,
yeah,
just
well,
unbelievable
yeah, just,
that even happened.
mm-hmm,
And,
that they're
and and then
close.
the conundrum of what do you do when you have the keys? She doesn't even know what they go to. But man, that's again, that's just another moment where you're kind of like, she's kind of crazy, but I'm here for it, at least in my
Yeah.
perspective. Like, I want to see somebody who's going to put it all on the line in order to win this game.
Right. And it's not even like, oh, Savannah's a crazy person. She's someone who is willing to do the crazy things in a television
Yeah.
game to win the game. And yeah, there's that one. There's the moment where like you said, there's the chest and MC finds it. Savannah literally dives trying to steal the chest from MC right in front. And then immediately is like, hey, we should work together, like trying to navigate through it. It's an awkward moment. There's a couple others in the seasons I want to run through. Um, Earlier on in the season, Matt, who was one of the pre-merge boots, like one of the first boots of the season, if you remember, she calls Matt a sociopath because he's a higher up
Finance
in a
guy,
job.
finance bro. We are attacking the finance bros on season 49. You
Yeah,
hear it?
she comes out and says that, and then calls Jawan effing annoying when, like, and she says she wants to throw him off a cliff, all in confessional, not to his face, but like, that's like, obviously she doesn't literally want to throw a human being off a cliff, but like sometimes that's just how people feel, and in those therapy sessions in the confessionals, she's willing to say it. And there's a couple others as well. When the MC thing happens, MC says that there's an evil gleam in Savannah's eye when they're having that conversation. Like there's just a couple. There's of course the moment with Christina. Do you want to dive into that one? I
No,
think this
let's
is
let's do
a good
it because I
transition.
think I mean, I've even said that I feel like Savannah's social game is lacking, but I would even go further and to say that it's just awkward. I don't know if it's lacking. It's just her social game is a bit awkward. And I
Yeah.
think that comes from her being somebody who's not afraid to have that confrontation. I heard somebody say the other day that she's kind of like a modern day Sandra in that way. And I think that's somewhat accurate, even though Savannah is more of a dominant player than Sandra in terms of the way they play. I do think their social games are somewhat similar.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm like the endearing thing about Sandra and why she wins, especially heroes versus villains, is she's willing to say, "Hey, this is what I was trying to do. I told you all this and you wouldn't listen to me. I knew the whole time." That's talking about Sandra's game, and this ends up working out for Savannah. She gets her way out a lot of the times, but she's willing to say what she thinks. And just to catch everyone up on that situation, Christina and Savannah are out in the woods, in the jungle, whatever you want to call it, and they're having a conversation about who they should vote for. And Savannah, throughout the way we see it, at least we don't see too much before, but Savannah looks to Christina and says, "Okay, who are you voting for?"
Point blank.
Point blank. Christina walks back. She can't. She's like, "This. I'm
I
not
don't
picking.
like that. I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
like
like
that.
that." It's a really funny moment. I'm sure for both Christina and Savannah looking back on it, it's funny just to see it, but like the two different styles of game really colliding in that moment.
Well, and I think there are parts of Savannah's story that probably could have been better fleshed out in season 49, like her backstory kind of feels a little bit just thrown in there just to get you to like her a little bit. And I don't think that's always something that's necessary. And I think this is one of those cases where you add in some of these other elements and it's like it's okay to have somebody that has some ups and downs as somebody that's going to be your winner. Like you want to have a satisfying winner, but that doesn't always have to mean that you adore them all the time. And this is something where for different styles of people watching the show, you're going to react to this differently. If you're more strategic based, you're going to love exactly what Savannah did. If you're somebody who's in it more for the challenges and the loyalty and the tribe aspect of it, you're probably going to hate what Savannah did. And that's okay. I mean, I think something that you have to remember when you're watching the show, that's hard to, right? Granted, is that this show isn't always made exactly for your perspective. And that's okay. That's why this show is bigger than just one little perspective. It's why it's not just made for superfans. It's why it's not just made for the casual audience. It's made for both of those things. And you have to keep both of those audiences happy as a producer and as a production perspective. So that's why you have some of these moments in there. And I think that these moments are things that when you get them, they're just magical because it shows you the different layers of this game. Like that's kind of the Joe and Rick of it all. We'll talk about a little bit later, but it's just two different styles and you can say Christina is whatever, right? But at the end of the day, it's just two different players playing the game.
That's exactly it. You have different perspectives of different fans watching. We should have the same thing. So this kind of like it's like a I think a really
We're
important.
getting meta, but I
Yeah,
mean,
like you need players that are all going to play different styles of games, have different motivations, have different paths to all come together, even if it's, I'm just going to use your Joe example for a second since you talked
go
about
for
it.
it. Yeah.
I don't like Joe because this is not what I'm saying. This is what people are saying. I
Yeah.
don't like Joe because he's not playing like a strong strategic game. He's just playing well. You need players like that on a season together to mesh, to have conversations like something similar to what Savannah and Christina are having here, so you can get those moments. And it just goes to show every moment, whether it seems small or big in the moment, can have an impact on who wins this game because this conversation does come back to haunt Savannah later on in the season when Christina asks a personal question to Savannah at Final Tribal Council.
And without this scene, that question becomes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think that the editors are almost trying to lay the breadcrumbs out a little bit. And I think to give production a little bit of criticism, I feel like audiences are a lot smarter than the editors think we are. Like
Hmm.
I feel like over sometimes it's overly spoon-fed, but I think this is a place where we're adding in this little scene has the nice payoff with the conclusion of Final Tribal Council. And I think that's what you want, even if it's not a positive thing for the hero. It's something that then pays off. And it doesn't feel so obvious that you're like, oh, this is going to come back to haunt her, right? And we finally get an old school jury question where there's a little bit of vitriol there, and boom, we have a great moment that people are talking about.
And it also, that kind of goes back to Savannah's past a little bit with what happens. A lot of people that didn't really know the full situation were asking, why is she a former news reporter? And as the season goes on, you find that out that she felt iced out where she formerly worked by her coworkers and that affected her physically in multiple different ways and really affected her mental and physical health throughout her life. And these are things that a lot of people say, oh, we don't need the backstory, but like the baggage comes with you on
Hmm.
Survivor. And if you go on Survivor, oh, this is a huge dream of your that you have, and you feel the same way that you have in real life, that hits you. And I think that's those moments are needed, especially for winners, to ground to be grounded in this person is still a human and they just doing what they need to do to win a social and strategic game.
So then let's go to the Christina jury question, right?
Yeah.
Christina asks about if Savannah can name family members. And this isn't like going down the line. This is just Savannah. I think Sophie does answer it, if I remember correctly. Um, but Savannah's asked, and Savannah can't. It's a really awkward situation, and it feels very old school. Like it feels like this is plucked straight out of Survivor Gabon and put into 49.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that so much of this question, like kind of like what I said, a different jury, different vibe on the jury, and this is completely different. If this is the 46 jury, Savannah doesn't win.
Yeah. I think I think that goes to show like it is important that to like highlight not every winner of Survivor. In fact, no winner of Survivor is anywhere close to perfect. Like there are going to be moments small moments at a time, like we said, that add up into a huge domino effect when you get to the end that can really that can really harm you. And it ends up harming Savannah here, not enough for her to lose the game. But I think it's about how you navigate that, realizing your mistakes and trying to push a perspective in a narrative, like you said, that narrative warfare out there as to why her mistakes shouldn't really matter because she's done a lot more things. And something a little bit different too is in her final tribal, um, there's a lot of times like this is a huge conversation on 46, like what are you going to do with the money?
Mhm.
And Savannah kind of says in this season, like, hey, like everyone has a different why for being out here, and it affects how you play, and it affects everything you do in this game. But she hopes that like the why ultimately doesn't matter because you're playing a game and you've just met each other 26 days ago for these new school players. And I think that is a narrative she really tries to push and just saying, hey, focus on my game, focus on my four immunity wins, focus on this Trace Late Chase alliance that I built with Rizzo and with Soph, and we got to the end, and the fact that I was able to pull on Sophie Segretti on a vote to get out Jawan and immediately vote out Sophie Segretti afterwards. Like, look at all these ways that I still navigated through this game, even despite my pitfalls. And yeah,
Well, that's Savannah pushing a narrative too.
yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people would be like, "Oh, she didn't really tell a story. There's no overarching story to her game." That's kind of the point. She's pushing the story of her strategy.
Exactly.
And I think to a lot of people who are like, "Well, if you just push the story, maybe you don't deserve the win," right? You think of people like Adam Klein. You think of people like Jeremy. I don't think there's anyone that's like Jeremy didn't deserve to win a season, but maybe not a 10-0, you know? And I think that really so much of it is, can you spin that narrative? Can you spin that story? And I think even the strategic winners, they have to be able to spin their story. And if they don't, then they're not going to be able to deliver, right? You think of D, who's known as one of the most dominant winners and specifically strategically, but how is she able to spin that narrative? She's able to spin that narrative through saying, actually, no, Austin, actually to Austin, right? And go through all that. And I think that that's something that's big with Savannah too, is she's able to spin her narrative really well. And a lot of it comes from that news reporting style, right?
hmm Something that, going back to 50, that Aubrey mentioned in her postseason presses, everyone is the hero of their own story.
Hmm.
Aubrey understands why she thinks she should win. Jonathan understands why he thinks he should win. But you need to relate that and let other people understand how they can relate it to their story as well. Like that matters. Their perspective and their intentions in the game are going to affect who they vote for. They want to vote for someone who they feel similarly to and who they think played the style of game that they should win. And sometimes that's not just like there are social players that Savannah probably doesn't get the vote of because they say, "Oh, well, that wasn't the style of game I wanted to play." But then there's a lot of players on that jury that say, wow, she really did navigate through this game strategically, even if she wasn't the best socially. And that's enough. That's what I wanted to do coming into this game. And she really did it. And she's there. And she proved it. And she won challenges, did all these things to get to the end.
Well, and also butters up Sophie Segretti
Yeah.
and does all that really, really well. We'll talk more about the story aspect with Aubrey and her episode because that's something that I'm really excited to talk about because I think that you're kind of beating the drum for Aubrey. You have been all season,
hmm
and I get it, and it's something I've really come around to it, and I have I think some thoughts on about the story and everything like that. But moving on, we'll go to Savannah in season 50,
Yeah.
finishes 22nd place. But honestly, Savannah was dead on arrival as soon as she walked in. Let's look at some of the highlights. Um, Not really able to lock in any relationship on Sela except for Jenna and kind of Joe. Um,
Mhm.
Although Joe really kind of gets swept up in the whole Rick Devens incident, and we talk about that with Ozzy telling Savannah and Devens, "Hey, let's do us four," and then pulling Joe. And then that causes the awkward Joe and Devin situation, which causes the blow up, which
Yeah.
turns into a season thing. So really, we should be thanking Ozzy and Savannah for this whole thing because we get a great rivalry out of it. So thank you for your service. Um,
Yes.
she was another Suri victim, another
Hmm.
person who's going for Suri that got targeted. And, Suri's one of those players. If you take the shot, you best not miss.
Hmm.
And,
There's
and
really
yeah,
there's a
go
lot
for
of
it.
complexities to her game. I know she's only here for a couple episodes, literally. But like she's a huge part of the early part of the season. And I think like this doesn't get talked about enough. How does Savannah survive episode one? Like to go in, like, and I know Jenna some like kind of overplays her hand, and we have a podcast talking all about that. Um, but like Savannah should be the first to go. Like a winner of a season you didn't see, and she's
Yeah.
admitting to it. Like that's really impressive social gameplay to be able to get in even through just a vote.
But I also think, I think to answer your question, I think Savannah was the second target there. I think Jenna put herself out as the bright orange suit saying, "Hey, look at me," by going after Suri and making it such a big thing, right?
Hmm.
And when Suri hears her name out there, you know, like I said, take a shot, and that's a shot that Jenna took and didn't make, and Suri made her pay for it. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a lot of the reason she's not the first boot. I do agree that there's some impressive social maneuvering there, and then that takes her to the journey where she goes out with Colby and plays the stacking game and obviously wins, which is I actually thought at one point in that she just wasn't going to be able to win because she wasn't tall enough to
Hmm.
get to that point, but takes advantage of Colby there and takes the win, and then comes back and doesn't tell her group about the advantage she got, which was a block a vote. So let's dive in real fast into what is the difference between Savannah telling her tribe that she's a winner, but not telling her tribe about the advantage, and if maybe she would have been honest about all of it, maybe that could have bought her some social capital, or was this just a lose-lose situation kind of for her? Because I'm kind of in this the lose-lose situation part, but I am interested in kicking around this and seeing if there's anything there.
Yeah, let's kick it around. In the season, Savannah says herself that she wants to be an open book. She wants to just share what she can without giving all the information. It doesn't benefit her to say, "Hey guys, I won 4 immunity challenges. Like you should really keep me to the post merge." Like she's not gonna like things that are going to hurt her. She knows she cannot say, but you need to give away information in this game. You can't keep everything to yourself. Otherwise, no one's gonna trust you. No one's gonna want to work with you. And I think she does a good job of trying to find that fine line. It's just she came in with such a tough situation. And unlike Rizzo does go to tribals early on in the season, and you kind of see the results of not knowing her, and not really getting to understand her game fully until they obviously see her game in 49 months later.
Yeah, I think that this was a tough situation. I do think she made the right call in telling them that she was a winner. I mean, what are you gonna say? I
Yeah,
think the
and they knew
only
already. That's kind of
I
meta as well, but they
I
knew.
I do have a theory on something they might have been able to do. And honestly, this is hindsight's 2020, right? But I almost wonder if they could have said, "Hey, they wanted to do a test live finale."
Mm,
And maybe they could have said, "Hey, just in case the fans voted to do one for 50, they did a live finale for 49. So, yeah, I made it to Final Tribal, but I don't think I won." Maybe that's something they could have concocted. I don't know. Just a thought.
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot there, but I do think at the end of the day, the players went into the season. This is a lot of non on the show stuff.
Yeah.
Someone from 49 leaked to at least one or two of the 50 players that Savannah won the season. I don't know who it was or what exactly happened. Those are rumors. I'm not saying those are things that are true, but I'm pretty sure like people had a good idea that Savannah won the season going in.
Agreed. Yeah, and you can go digging and find that out, and you can hear about the plan that the Trace Leches group concocted in terms of what it was gonna be, and then what it ended up being the story that they told with Rizzo and with with Savannah on 50, but yeah, I really think that there wasn't really a good situation here, and honestly, I think a lot of it was Savannah kind of set up to fail in terms of 50, and if she could have been able to wriggle her way out of it, I mean, power to her, right? But
Yeah,
I just don't think there's a
yeah,
huge precedent there, especially with the precedent of returning players going really far
yeah,
that play back-to-back seasons.
yeah. A couple of things I want to hit on Savannah's game in 50. You kind of mentioned it. She does go after Sari, but she also does a really good job of highlighting it and trying to point out to people on her tribe. Like Sari and Ozzy are working close together. She realizes that really before a lot of players on 50 do. And that becomes one of the most important alliances on the season as a whole. And she does a good job of understanding that. You get a couple funny moments where you get it like a, we'll call it a villainous moment on 50 as well, where it says that Sari blew the challenge, and she said, "This is the most painful thing
Yeah,
I've seen on Survivor." What is that called? The monkey fist, I think, where you throw the,
yeah.
yeah, they throw the ball onto like the hooks. So those are just some funny moments I think I caught as well.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things about Savannah that really sticks out is the fact that she's willing to own that confessional, own that spotlight. And I think that's one of the things that really kind of endears her. Uh, it's a dividing line, whether you like her or whether you don't.
Okay, so let's kind of get into recapping Savannah's Survivor experience as a whole. Obviously, for her, it's a crazy 2 month experience, pretty much going back to back, a couple days off in between. But she kind of describes her experience as she goes out as an experience where she was learned to be vulnerable, and even though she was voted out in 22nd place and went out at her second tribal in 50, that this was a awesome experience for her because she was able to live out her dream twice, winning $1 million and getting to play with some of the best players to ever play on 50. So I kind of want to just ask you first, what do you think makes Savannah such a good character?
I really think that Savannah is somebody who really delivers. And I think that sounds pretty vague, but in every area, she's going to give you exactly what you want as a character. She's going to give you the snappy confessionals. She's going to be a really strong competitor, if not a dominant competitor in challenges. She's somebody who is going to be at the leading edge of strategy, and I think Rizzo gets a lot of the strategic love in that group, and rightly so. But I also think Savannah's a pretty underrated strategist in terms of that. And I think that especially the Jawan boot is one of those where her pull of Sophie Segretti is really strong. And you can view that kind of as a social play as well. Because I don't think she goes on to win the season if she doesn't pull Sophie Segretti there. Like I just don't think that happens. So I think that's why Savannah. And she's very old school coded. And I think it's pretty funny because I know when the season was airing, a lot of people were like, "Oh, who is this? We don't like her." And I think that a lot of it had to deal with the fact that her season was already kind of overshadowed by 50, and they knew she was kind of going to be on 50, and they were kind of upset that the season was kind of spoiled. And I think that without that, Savannah's heralded as a new era legend and a new era mother figure, right? She's somebody that everyone looks at as one of the greats of the new era. And she still is. But I think a lot of the connotation of the wow, we love her gets taken down because we already kind of knew that she was going to be somebody. And I think there was no element of surprise or us figuring it out that was out there. I mean, if you're asking for a new era villain, she's right up there, right? If you're asking for somebody who's going to be similar to Corinne or somebody who's going to be similar to Randy, or I mean, honestly, you could just name half the Gabon cast. You're probably not going to get those on current day Survivor. Like that's just not going to happen.
Something that Survivor asks for when they go through casting is for players. I mean, it sounds simple, but just to be who you are. Like, and I think Savannah does a good job of really contextualizing that when she gets out to the island. And I think it is a huge advantage, and I think we're both biased in saying this, but being in this industry of storytelling and in media to kind of understand that, like, hey, each person needs to be able to tell her story, for her to understand who she is and be able to just say, okay, here are the parts of me that I need to lean into. Like, here are the things I need to be saying on camera, not only to get me more screen time, but just also to really fully let myself loose and to be myself. That's what makes Savannah so great, is she's able to understand that's what is needed to make great TV and not just fake it, but to actually have that be something that she can use her own life experience to put forward in her life, making herself look villainous on the show, but really just pushing out some of those more those thoughts that she has, and the grit and determination that she has in life, obviously, to grow in her field of media, using that desire to push herself further into the game. And yeah, sometimes you got to be selfish in life, and you got to be selfish definitely on Survivor.
Yeah, it's like I think it goes back to some of the honor and integrity stuff where it's like, what do you mean you're lying on Survivor? I mean, that's kind of the name of the game, right? Like, it's not you and your buddies are going to win $1 million. It's you. There's a reason it's called Soul Survivor. Like,
Hmm.
they're not gonna, I mean, maybe that's an open era twist where there's more than one person that gets awarded the title of Soul Survivor. Maybe it's dual Survivor. Don't put that out in the world. But you never know. And I think,
Hilarious.
in an era where Jeff has said they don't cast villains, right? Tyler, I have a question for you. What is a new era villain? What does it look like?
Whew, that's a heavy one. That's a great question, though, and I really want to get into talking about what that really means because, yeah, you look back early on in Survivor, and the villains are the people that are straight up going to be saying these terrible things about people personally. And sometimes you get quotes from Savannah, like we talked about, where she's coming after some of her castmates, but it doesn't feel personal. Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, I genuinely
I it,
person.
Sometimes it feels personal. With
I'm sure.
Jawan, it felt personal a little
Yeah,
bit.
there are moments in there, but like it doesn't feel like hatred, I should say. Like it
Fair, yeah.
um
It
and that's
feels
kind of
very
it.
baked in the game, not them as people
Yeah.
outside of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think honestly that might be our answer right there. I didn't This is not what I was gonna say coming into this podcast. But like I think it's that fine line between what is personal and what is genuine hatred. Like the new era villain is someone who's willing to play a game that is personally for themselves, take actions of others personally, and act accordingly. But you don't have these people that have rough, like, history in life of being like hatred people that are going to
Mean-spirited.
mean spirited, right? Yes.
And I
Like,
almost wonder if Jeff saying no villains is almost just incorrect speaking. I
yeah,
wonder if he's just like, we're not going to cast people that are just bad people.
yes,
Because there's a very big distinction in between being a villain and being a bad person. It's
yes,
like, I mean, as simple as Wreck-It Ralph, right?
yeah.
Like, I'm bad and that's good. Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean you're a bad person, right? It just means that you play in a way that's a little bit differently. And that's okay. I mean, going back to Borneo, I mean, villain won the first game
Mhm.
and he was heralded as this great winner.
I saw.
There were people that hated him, but there were
Yeah,
also people that were parading in the streets saying, "Hey, Hatch won," and that's the whole thing of the game, even to this day, right? It's why the biggest season ever is heroes versus villains, right?
yeah.
And I think that that's an interesting distinction as we go into the new era and into the open era on what those characters are going to look like from then on. And we've already kind of talked about this, but do you think her game would be viewed more positively if nobody knew how she did based on season 50? Like if
Yes,
she's somebody who is on 49 and then on season 55 and
yes.
she's not on 50, do we think we look at her in the category of the D's, of the Kyles, or do you think she's still kind of in that middle of the new era great winner category?
Again, yes. Like that's the simple answer is I
Yeah.
think I mean I'll dive into it of course more and we'll add on to it, but like just coming in knowing that she was going to be on the next season, a lot of people, including myself to some degree, were like, "Oh, I kind of hope Savannah doesn't go far," just so that we weren't like just so that we didn't kind of telegraph it from the beginning. It was nothing against Savannah. Like she kind of had that going against her working into the season, and it kind of right on like on the early side of it, it's like, oh, it kind of makes you lose that excitement for how good Savannah actually does play. Now being on the other side of the 50, we have the hindsight to look back and be like, wow, Savannah really is not only one of the better winners in the 40s in the new era, but really overall in Survivor. I wouldn't say she's like top 10 overall, but
I'd
she's
say
definitely
she's top
top 10.
half. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I've really enjoyed going back and looking at Savannah's 49 game in
Mm.
preparation for this. Like, I really think Survivor 49 is a pretty underrated season. And really there's some fun parts about it. And you can absolutely view it as the majority alliance just absolutely getting owned, right? And the Trace Leches group uh just taking all their lunch money and taking them to the end, right? And just curb stomping them, right? But I almost view it as just a group of master strategists and great game players all coming together. I mean, there's no slouch in that group of three. There's not. Like, Savannah is a really dominant physical player, one of the more dominant female physical players we've ever seen, which is crazy because I think she's like 5 foot even,
Yeah.
you know? Sophie Bolardi, who's a great social player who has a lot of solid strategic background, and Rizzo, who's one of the better strategists in the new era and within the last 15 seasons of Survivor. And I think that you add all those three together, it's a really strong combination, and that's why it works. And you have some players who, again, kind of have that honor based ish thing with Christina, and you have a player with Steven who is a very social player and things like that. And that's where that can start to be a problem, especially when you have a group of three that's very well versed in all three really big elements of the game.
I think at the end of the day, too, something I was just thinking of as you were talking, the Trace Leches, like ironically, I think they each have an opportunity to play Trace times. Like Savannah and Rizzo have played twice already,
Oh,
and I
Rizzo's playing more than three
Rizzo's
times.
going to be
Rizzo's
back
playing more
at
than three
least two
times.
more times, I feel like, at this point. Savannah, I know she didn't go far in this season, but she really is so witty on 49 that she has a chance to play again. And Sophie Boleri,
If they do a new era heroes versus villains or a heroes versus villains 2, I think Savannah's on that cast.
yeah. And with Sophie Boleri, she plays a strong game as well, and she has been all over the Survivor community. Like, not only has she been doing good stuff on social
Production
media
loves her.
herself, exactly. Production loves her. She was at the premiere. She was hosting stuff at that. She was part of challenges for that. She was at the finale doing things as well. Like, she's another player. When we look back on 49, this Trace Slate Chase Alliance could be one of the like looking back on like a Survivor China where you have these
Yeah,
alliances that
fair.
kind of all navigate through the game later on, play different times of the season, sometimes together and sometimes apart. But it's one of the more iconic alliances looking back on it. I think we could have that on our hands here.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Now, I have an answer to this question. I'm interested to see if you have the same answer. And I think this has gotten thrown around as we're talking about Savannah returning to Survivor at some point. Do we think there are other shows that Savannah could be on? And I think she is the easiest layup ever for the traders.
The Traders would be a good one. I think she'd be good on the challenge
She'd be
as well.
so good on the traders. I'm sorry. Like, Alan, drop what you're doing. I mean, get this lady on the traders. I mean, Savannah plays such a game that is so specifically perfect for the traders. She might go out in the first episode, but man, she'll give you good TV while you're at it.
Yeah.
Savannah and
The thing
Q on the
is,
traders at the
I think
same
there's so
time would be
many.
perfect.
That would be great. There's such a great pool of Survivor players that I think would be great on the traders. It's tough to really pick who. I do think Savannah is a good candidate for that and would be fun on there.
I like your
I have one
challenge.
more question for you. Yeah,
Yeah, I
let's talk
should.
about the
Yeah,
challenge before I get into it. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I'm not a
I
big
think that
fan
would
of
be
the
good.
challenge, but I think she fits the archetype of a female who really works and is good at challenges and is somebody who knows how to bring the drama and is not afraid to speak their mind. And I think that
Yeah,
that's kind of what you're looking for on a show like The Challenge. And uh,
exactly.
I know Jonathan apparently has tried to get on the challenge for a while. Tyson Apostle even said he put in a good word for him, but
Hmm.
I know Tyson doesn't have the greatest relationship with the challenge in the world, so who knows if that happens? But maybe another Survivor 50 castaway will.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's something that could be fun as well. But something I wanted to kind of loop back to, we kind of talked
Yeah,
about it earlier, but just my last thought is like going back to the new era villain of it all. The editing of the season, any season, plays a major impact on it. And people that edit for a living and craft stories for a living as we do
yeah.
in the sports realm, like it's still the same thing. And I think the difference that we see in the new era versus old is a lot of the old school villains, they're one note. Like they're just gonna give you that one bad side of these players, and that's about it. Where now, I think what Jeff means by no villains is we'll have people that are willing to do villainous things, but have these redeeming qualities and have reasons behind why they're doing it, and we're going to show it to you in the show. Because in any season of Survivor, if they wanted to make us hate Savannah in season 49, they could have done it. Like the content is there just to leave all
Yeah.
the personal things that we talked about that she says in and nothing redeeming. But that's not who Savannah is as a person. That's not who they want to show her as, and nor should they show her as that because she's so much more than that.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. And I think the editing of 49 is a little funky, but that's a different story for another day, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's time to ask our question that we ask in every episode. Are they a hero? Are they a villain? Are they an anti-hero? I'd personally be willing to say anti-hero, but on the red carpet of the Survivor 50 finale, Tyson said something about a villain. You're not really a villain, and Savannah's like, "Oh no, I am."
Hmm.
So I've been calling her a villain all podcast. Savannah, you get your wish. You're a villain. Congratulations. And
Well,
I think it's fitting, right? But to a certain extent, I know there are people where if you call them a villain, they probably get a little bent out of shape about it. But Savannah really wears the badge
yeah.
of honor.
Yeah, I think players should. Like, that's perfectly fine to, again, do what you need to do to win the game. I was like, Tristan, you were saying she's a villain this entire podcast. Now you're gonna say she's an anti-hero, but no, I'm glad you came around thanks to Savannah's red carpet interview. Because I agree with you. I think she is a villain on 49. You get aspects to it on 50, but overall, I think she's a villainous character, and that's something she should embrace. I think that's something players should embrace moving forward into the open era and looking back on the games in the newer era in the old school versions of the game as well.
And villains can win the game. We knew that
Yes.
already, but villains absolutely can win the game. It's not always the person that they like the best all the time. That helps, right? But if you're able to sell that story, like we said,
Yeah.
that's so much of it. Any final thoughts before we go, Tyler?
I think we really did a good job of 49 is obviously the big season for her, and we left out some parts on 50. I mean, even though she's not there as much, I think 49 is really the bulk of where we could see
Yeah.
who she plays as, and we see that future potential for her on 50. So I'll just say I'd like to see Savannah come back again. I don't know if she's one where I'm like, we need her back on the very next returning player season, but if I see Savannah's name come up in the rumor mill or on a season, you'll see no complaints from me. I
Yeah.
think she's a great character who is willing to be herself, say what she needs to say, and I just really appreciate that from Savannah. So, one of the better characters in the new era for me.
She's going to be entertaining. She's going to give you good TV. At the end of the day, what more can you ask for from a reality TV contestant, from somebody who is a winner, from somebody who cares about the franchise? Savannah, your flowers. We love you here at Character Study. Uh, if you like this podcast, if you like what we're doing, if you want to keep up with it, Please subscribe. Please follow us on social media. It helps us out a ton as we're trying to get this thing off the ground, really getting this thing started. We think we can create great conversation, and that doesn't happen unless we have people to conversate with. And the more you guys can interact and really get started in our comment sections and liking videos and sending this to your survivor friends and all that kind of stuff, we can create that better community and create those better conversations about the characters that we all love for Survivor. That'll do it for us here at Character Study. We thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you later. See ya.